Hey everybody, welcome to Landscape Rescue. My name's Stuart Moore, and today it's our first Lowe's trip. I'm so excited. We're gonna go into Lowe's and we're gonna look for some really good deals. And it's a little early in the year, so we're not gonna see a whole lot of clearance. I am gonna tell you what is a good deal and what isn't a good deal, so you don't have to do that research for yourself.
Don't tell me my business, devil woman!
The task is we're gonna look for some good deals on some plants. The conditions are, it's a beautiful day, but it's still very, very cold at night. And standards are, well, we have no standards. A crabapple. Think about a crabapple. So this one's Harvest Gold crabapple, which if I believe the berries are yellow on this one. It's $115 for something this size. If I was selling you a 15-gallon crabapple at my nursery, it would probably be $149, somewhere around there. Freight's gotten a little crazy lately, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about. When you see a plant that you're looking for, get it. Right now is not a time to be finicky with price. We're gonna try our best. We're gonna look for good deals, but the plant industry has been turned on its head. If we thought it was challenging last year to find plants as plant professionals, this year is going to be even more challenging, okay? Because we have gas prices where they are, so freight is really high. Prices are going to be higher. So mitigate your expectations in the sense that stuff is going to be a little bit more expensive. So when I see something like this, compare at $115, it's a 15-gallon Harvest Gold crabapple. It looks like, if you can see, it looks like it's been burnt by the cold weather that we've been having. If you have stuff that's getting a little sizzled at home by these cold snaps, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Trees can typically leaf out again if they're healthy, right? So they stored energy over from last year. They've stored energy. They photosynthesized simple sugar last year. So they've got the energy to push more leaves. White crabapples are beautiful crabapples. Typically, they're going to lose their petals before they end up looking like used toilet paper, right? That's kind of the issue with magnolias. That's why I don't have a whole lot of star magnolias. I'm more of a...
He might be an idiot savant, but he's not like clever enough to go that deep.
Evergreen magnolia kind of guy. I'm not necessarily in love with deciduous magnolias for that very reason. Those petals start turning brown and stay on, where crabapples will typically cut loose of those white petals, right? Same thing with white roses. I love white roses, but I spend a lot of time deadheading white roses to prevent it looking like a used toilet paper tree. Another one is a Yoshino cherry. I know a couple people on the Facebook. We have a private for subscriber only Facebook group, and some of those people have talked about their cherries that they had found later on in the year. 1.5 inches, maybe 1 3/4 inches. So this might be a 1.75 inch caliper Yoshino cherry for $125. That's a pretty good deal. If you have a Lowe's credit card and you're a veteran, you can get even more money off of it. Keep that in mind. $125, go through the rigmarole, put in your DD214, whatever you got to do, get a Lowe's credit card, pay it off when you're done, and you can get even more discount off of this $125. But for a Yoshino cherry, I mean, it's a very, very pretty white flowering tree. So that's what I'm talking about. White flowering trees that are going to take place of a Bradford pear or a Cleveland pear or a Callery pear that have become horribly invasive. I have to admit that. I take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt when it comes to barberry and things like that, but there's pears everywhere and they've cross-pollinated with everything. It's just a stinky mess here in the spring. It's just a stinky mess. I did find a weeping Yoshino cherry just kind of hiding back here in the back, right? So I've got a weeping snow fountain cherry. You've seen me kind of talk about that. I would say it's probably a 10-gallon. It's $68. So $68 for a weeping cherry tree. Pretty good deal. It's saying that the average is about 7 feet tall. So This is going to be a little smaller than a weeping snow fountain cherry. Weeping snow fountains are going to get about 12 by 12. This is saying 7 by 5. So remember, just flip the tag over. You can trust tags. Use the beneficial fungus, beneficial bacteria, Dr. Earthgrow. The Dr. Earthgrow is the beneficial fungus and beneficial bacteria. I find it here at Lowe's. I'm going to get a bag today just to have some on hand. It's usually around $9. You're silly if you're buying plants and not grabbing a bag of Dr. Earthgrow. You're silly. Or you've just never watched the channel before, and welcome. 2-year fertilizer tablets. I use the Agroform 21 gram 2-year fertilizer tablets. And if you can find them in smaller packages on Amazon, great. If you have to buy a whole box, great. If you're never going to plant another plant.
You're just visually challenged. I feel sorry for you.
Maybe see if your neighbors are going to do some landscaping, talk them into it. Maybe you can snake a couple when they're not looking. Expect it to get full size, right? So if the tag says 7 foot by 10 feet, make sure you're 5 feet off of the house, because that 10 feet only means 5 feet in each direction, basically, right? It's gonna need full sun. For the most part, most trees can handle full sun, right? They evolved to be adaptable. And there's some kind of part of the country where they can grow dogwoods in full sun. I can't do it here. I can't get them to stick. I don't like to gamble with other people's money. My money, whatever. I'll do experiments, but other people's money. What was I even talking about?
Deep fried farts.
Magazines and some hard candy.
Rumpelstiltskins.
Oh yeah, so $68. $68 for the Weeping Yoshino cherry is a really good deal. So it might be worth just kind of poking around and looking and flipping some tags over and finding one of these. If you spend $68 on a weeping cherry, you are not going to think that was not a good investment. You are not going to bust your chops 3 years later going, I can't believe I spent 68 bucks on the Abmaster 5000. I can't believe I spent $68 on that testosterone boosting vitamin. You're not going to complain about that, right? It's a weeping cherry. You're going to be fine.
Oh, great. Now I'm impotent.
All right, check this out. This is Gold Dust Akuba. I don't even have to look at the, oh, I should have looked at the tag. This is Mr. Goldstrike Akuba.
How can he not know?
Let's take a look at it. This is a pretty hardy evergreen for our area, and it's really, really neat. It's got like these gold paint splotches on the leaves. It's evergreen. It's a zone 7, I believe. It's pretty dicey around here, but you can get them to stick if you can keep them out of that cold north wind. Okay, it says zone 6 to 10.
I'm completely lost. I've hit rock bottom.
But again, you need to be careful about where you put it. Slowly reaches 4 to 6 feet tall, 4 to 5 feet wide. So 6 by 5. It likes full shade. Keep it off of the north side. Man, that cold wind starts smacking into these things. Remember, wind chill is not the same as air temperature.
Thank you, Mr. Wizard.
Okay, so the cold wind does affect plants. Oh, I love these. I love these. I'm having a hard time finding them, so I just ordered about 5 trucks of Monrovia, Oregon, Georgia, Cincinnati. I mean, I got every single grower, every single actual Monrovia nursery I ordered from this year. And so I've got a lot of really cool plants at my nursery, and I'm excited to bring those to my customers. Could not remember seeing any Gold Dust Akuba. I mean, I like this Mr. Goldstrike. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, give that a shot. If you're struggling to find some variety in your shady areas, right? You're sick of hostas, you're sick of coral bells, you're sick of bleeding hearts, you're sick of toad lilies, you're sick of, you know, did I say hostas already? Maybe I did. I'm losing it.
That ship has sailed and sank.
I gotta stop drinking before I do these.
Why?
The Gold Dust Akuba would be a nice backdrop to that, because remember, it's only gonna get about 5 feet or 5 by 5 if you think about it like that. So really cool plant. Gold Dust Akuba. Now these are priced at $6 bazillion, I bet.
That's a lot of money, man.
And I pulled this off of the rack. They're probably not priced yet. I just saw the price tag, $70. So $70 for this. It's a 5-gallon Mr. Goldstrike Akuba.
That doesn't make sense to me.
One of these little gem Norway spruce. Now, again, I'm just kind of rating these racks that just got here. And ideally, all of us nursery people kind of think the same way. If I don't have time to put this stuff away, I'm gonna put it out in racks and I'm gonna let customers just pull out of it. As long as I've received it in my system and I know how much it costs, people will do a lot of the unloading for me because they'll just buy it and I won't have to put it out on display.
Lazy and you're stupid.
Anyway, I think that's what they might be doing. A really cool plant to have in a landscape because it only gets about 18 inches tall. Little gem Norway spruce. I don't know why I looked at the tag. I carry them at my nursery. I love them. It's in this little 2-gallon pot. And it's just gonna add a little something, right? So a lot of the problems that I have with evergreens is they get very big. I also don't like how they don't change very much. Now the cool thing about the Norway spruce is these little tiny buds, you see them? They'll candle and create these greenish buds on there, and it adds a little pop to an otherwise a relatively boring plant, which is evergreens are typically pretty boring.
I get hate mail, death threats.
Unless they flower. I want you to have something for every season. Evergreens are for the winter. Is when they kind of show up to the party, is in the wintertime. I've been thinking about it. Let's see what the price is on this guy here. It's a 2-gallon, so I'd say if it was more than $30, they're out there. Goddamn mind. $50, $49.98.
Well, that's just stupid.
For a 2-gallon Little Gem Norway. I will pass. You know how many black-eyed Susans I can buy with that? You know how many McChickens that is? Well, it's 50. It's 50 McChickens. Okay, we're still on the Monrovia racks. I need to get around and show you guys what's happening right now, but I keep on running across stuff that I want to talk about. So this is a Snowball Viburnum. So Eastern Snowball, Snowball bush. Sometimes people get these confused with like an arborescens style hydrangea, like the Incrediball. This particular one is the Snowball Viburnum. So it's not a hydrangea, it's a viburnum. The Snowball bush typically get very big. So I want to look at this. So it's a 1-gallon pot, right? 1 gallon. If you flip open the tag, which I feel like a lot of people don't do, if you flip open the tag, 12 by 10. So it says it right here on the tag. 12 by 10. Open tags, read the tag. You know how many of these I've torn out that were perfectly healthy? First of all, don't plant this in your front yard. You don't have that kind of front yard. Neither do I. You might. I don't. This would be if I was gonna soften up a privacy fence, right? The corners of a privacy fence. I could have one on one side, one on the other, and then I could work my way down, kind of stair step my way down and create kind of an oasis in those corners. Outdoor Inspirations did a video on these and they were out trimming some Snowball Viburnum and they were in a big grove, kind of a mass planting of those, and absolutely breathtaking. That is the Eastern Snowball or Snowball Viburnum. 20 bucks. 20 bucks for a 1-gallon plant. Now I'm telling you, plants are gonna be higher this year. I get it's Monrovia. I get they inoculate all their potting soil. I get that they can grow amazing plants. They do. I don't really ever get disappointed. It's in a Monrovia pot. I haven't been disappointed before. But 20 bucks? 20 bucks for a 1-gallon plant?
20. 20? No. I don't have that kind of money. I mean,
come on, guys. Last year or the year before, we were buying 1-gallon Snowball Viburnum for $10. So it's almost doubled. Crazy sauce.
It's the end of days.
Okay, so I always pick stuff up. I don't know if you've ever seen me do that in the video. So when I first discover something, when I first see something, I always pick it up.
I don't have the strength these days.
Here's why. That is not potting soil, right? So that's not the typical soil medium that you see at these places. This is what the typical soil medium looks like. Right? So see that difference there? This was field potted, right? So this was grown out in the field. They have some kind of tree spade or something that can go around this plant, pop it out, and then they pop it right into a pot. So it's like a ball and burlap in the sense that it's had 90 to 95% of its roots pruned off, so its bottom mass has been reduced. These are extremely heavy.
I was there the day the strength of men failed.
And a lot of the times, when you pull them out of the pot, you do a lot of damage because it doesn't really hold very well, right? Because those roots it doesn't have, all that root mass hasn't been growing in this pot. All of that root mass is still in that field.
In which field?
That field of darkness.
Right, where they plugged it out of the ground and then they popped it into the pot. So pick up the pot.
What about the pot?
If it's light, it's probably pot grown. If it's super, super heavy, like this one here, it's going to be field potted. I'm gonna tell you, if you guys are paying $44.98 for a 5-gallon winter gem boxwood, I will burn you with a soldering iron. There is no reason why you should be paying. I won't actually burn you. Don't leave comments about that.
Do you have a soldering iron?
You should never ever pay $44.98 for a field potted 5-gallon plant, no matter what it is. Maybe it was an Ito peony, but whatever. We're not talking about those. We're talking about boxwood. Jeez Louise. Ridiculous. This is a dwarf Alberta spruce. And dwarf Alberta spruce are really cool Christmas tree looking evergreens, Picea conica, but it's $77. Remember that weeping cherry over there was $68. You might have problems with some Japanese beetles or something on your cherry trees, but for me, cherry trees perform a lot better in the landscape than dwarf Alberta spruce. Dwarf Alberta spruce always seem to disappoint people. Don't plant it too close to the house. Anywhere it touches another thing, it seems to die out right there. They like full sun, but remember, when you're going to water these, you might want to spray them off real good because they do have a tendency to get spider mites. So dwarf Alberta spruce, spider mites, bagworms, kind of look out for those sort of things. Go to your local botanical garden website and see if they have a time frame when you should spray for bagworms. When the bagworms are little tiny guys and they're going to start building their bags so they can get bigger, that's when you want to hit them. That's when you want to use an insecticidal soap or a pesticide of some sort. Yeah, so these say 3 to 4 feet tall by 3 to 4 feet wide. I would say that's probably on the low side. I've seen these at least 6 feet tall with a big, 5-foot base to them. Around here, they end up looking like kind of witches' hats. You can trim them, and they do show some character when they start to candle like this. See how they're starting to push those new buds? But for the most part, I would rather go with the weeping cherry. I think weeping trees add a lot of winter interest. That weeping habit kind of breaks the eye line up a little bit, so they're very cool in that respect. Skybound arborvitae. So it looks a little bit more compact. Here, let me show you an emerald green. So this is a skybound, this is an emerald, and you can kind of see the difference in these two. But here's the cool thing about this skybound. It's only going to get 15 to 18 feet tall. So remember, when we're talking about privacy, everybody's privacy situation is going to be a little bit different. One of your neighbors is up on a hill and they're looking down into your second-story bathroom. You're going to need more than 18 feet of privacy. But somebody like me that has an outdoor naked Pilates studio, we're not doing naked Pilates 30 feet up in the air. We're doing it on the ground. I don't need a whole lot of privacy up in the air. I need it at ground level, just like a pool or something to that effect. You don't have to have a green giant arborvitae that gets 30 feet tall and 20 feet wide, so 10 feet in each direction. It eats up your entire yard, so you can have a little privacy around your pool. I get it. That skybound would be a good option for that. Or an emerald. The thing about emeralds is snow and ice load, they have a tendency to have multiple trunks. See that? So what I like to do is I like to put a very loose zip tie in the spring to hold these together. Not in the spring, in the fall. Late fall, early winter, before you get snow, or wrap them up with Christmas lights. Because what has a tendency to happen is that snow load pulls them down. See that? And unless you correct that, then it's just going to start growing in that way, and you're just going to get some weird things are going to, your arborvitae is going to look like a pitchfork. And I always think that's funny in landscapes when I see the pitchfork arborvitae. Okay, check this out. Here is a good deal. This is a type of Dianthus called Frosty Fire, and all of these Dianthus, it's not like Fire Witch or Fire Star or some of the finer bladed Dianthus. This is has those big tall stalks, and it has like a double flower on it. I really like Dianthus, and it's a perennial, and it's a fire and forget perennial. Once they're established, they're pretty drought tolerant. The only real maintenance you have to do with Dianthus is after they're done with this first flush. So this big flush, I like to trim them back, and that helps kind of reinvigorate them, give them a regenerative prune, and then it pushes new growth because it blooms on new growth, right? So the more new growth we have, you want to make sure you're feeding them. But for $6.98, and if you have a Lowe's card, you're going to get a discount there. If you've got a military discount, you're going to get even more of a discount. This is a really good deal for Dianthus. I typically can sell Dianthus for about $10 or $11, maybe the fancier varieties from Monrovia that we carry, the more patented varieties, all the way up to $15. But there's nothing really ever wrong with throwing a Dianthus in the landscape, because this is what it does. It will get a little wider, but it's not going to overpower everything. You're not going to have to, if you've got an area, maybe water it in the summertime every 3 days when you kind of do your rounds. But I mean, this is you could pair this with some dwarf Monarda or something like that you don't have to water very often. Actually, I do a very good job of killing Monarda because I water it too often. I take too good of care of it. Just like some of the sages and lavenders, I feel like I kind of do the same thing to those too. But yeah, that's a good deal for a Dianthus, $7. All right. Okay, so I'm over here by the roses, and you guys know me, I like the roses, and I'm especially a huge fan of climbing roses. So I've got some 5-gallon climbing roses at work that I need to purchase. But then when I see stuff like this, I'm loving the way that they're packaging roses now. This is, not everybody, but these are, it's like a little, I don't know, it's probably the equivalent of a 1 gallon, but it's got a little spot for the rose to pop through there. And just a big fan of this way. I think there's a little bit more water retention there. And so I do like that. So this is a Blaze climbing rose, and you guys are familiar with the Blaze. For $9.98, I mean, that's a pretty good deal, because this thing's going to get 6 feet its first year, especially if you do all the good stuff, beneficial fungus, beneficial bacteria, 2-year fertilizer tablets, some root stimulator. I mean, you're going to do pretty well. Look at this guy back here. Oh, look at that pretty peach colored, which is the climbing roses at work that I have, and I can't remember the variety, but I need to buy some because they're probably just going to sit there for the next decade. Oh, it's just killing me. Look at this Chicago. That one was called Wasteland, the one I just showed you. This is Chicago Peace. Look how pretty that one is going to be. Wow, it's got some kind of like orange sherbet, raspberry flavored petals in there. Pretty nice. Check this out. Speaking of roses, this is a double knockout on a standard. Oh, they're gonna make you pay for this. Yep, $50. Jeez Louise. I'd just get a regular knockout. Guys, I'd just get a regular knockout. I'd put a stake in the ground just like they did. See how they did a stake here? And I would maybe try to isolate a stem and then see if you could do the same thing. They're a little bit hard to work with because they are a little bit grumpy. They'll get you, but still, keep them. Don't spend $50. Don't you dare spend $50. Don't make me break out the soldering iron. Do not spend $50 on a knockout rose if it's on a standard or not. Now, if it was chest high, if it was grafted chest high and it was a standard, now $50 is making a lot more sense. But like grafted knee high, that doesn't do anything for me. Knockouts get like 4 feet tall without a graft. What are we doing? I have a weakness. Plus, you can get something like a coral knockout right here. I've got a weakness for coral-colored, orange-colored things. $25 for a 3-gallon. Not a bad deal at all. Again, I was just over at a friend's house when I was dropping off some beneficial fungus and some 2-year fertilizer tablets for them because they wanted to do a birthday surprise for their son. Their son turns 5 on Sunday, and they're going to plant some fruit trees together. So I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to just drop by after work, and I dropped her off some fertilizer tablets and some beneficial fungus and bacteria, which that was Tree Saver, which is the professional grade inoculant that I sell at work. And there was knockouts that I had planted for her. I mean, we were trying to figure out how old they are. I mean, we're thinking they're 15, 18 years old. And that's what happens when you spend $25 on a knockout rose. You know, they're still healthy. They still bloom their faces off. For $25, it's almost like a no-brainer. But if you don't have room, do a drift rose. Drift roses are really pretty. Or one of these meat petites. Now, these got a little fried, but it's okay. It's a knockout rose. It'll be fine. It's got like 30 more buds on here. But meat petites don't get very big at all. So that's a cool thing about these roses. Feed them well. Feed them well, take care of them, plant them the right way, and then you can pretty much torture them. That we don't run into very often at Lowe's, because it's the kind of a secret amongst us plant people. The Deciduous Azalea. So this is not an azalea, that is an evergreen. And you can put them in full hot sun. So whenever something has a chance to photosynthesize more sugar, it gets more energy. Now these typically get a little bigger on the big side. Let's see here. Yeah, 6 by 6. So I'm not familiar with this particular variety. Mount St. Helens is this particular variety, and they have it at $28.98. So almost $30 for a Deciduous Azalea is a really good. I think it's a really good buy. It's right there with, like, I'm not going to text my mom about what a good deal this is, but it is a pretty good deal. Deciduous Azaleas, although I want to warn you, make sure you leave enough room for one of these, because this thing talks, right? When this blooms, you hear its voice. This is a cool plant to have. They also have some little itsy bitsy Pieris. So your grandkids, this will be 3 by 3. Guys, I really appreciate you coming along with me. This is the first Lowe's trip of the year. I'm gonna go back inside and I'm gonna buy some sunflowers. I was a little late in buying sunflower seed this year, so I'm gonna go in, I'm just gonna ravage the place, buy about 15 bucks worth of sunflowers, and it's gonna give me entertainment all winter long. My name's Stuart Moore. Thank you very much for letting me into your home to talk about plants.